All right, I know everyone is still on the other live that we started, so I'm gonna give you all a couple minutes to hop over to this live. I was using a different browser, and for whatever reason, that browser was not allowing me to use my camera or anything like that. So willfully, um, you all can hear me in this one, all right? And you can see me probably. I don't care if you can see me as long as you can hear me. But if you can at least hear me, please put one up in the chat. Okay, loud and loud. All right, cool. That's all we need then. We good. Thank you, Sister Kashia. All right, yeah, man. So peace. Thank you, Sister Arlene. Thank you, Sister Aquia. Thank you, Brother Christopher. Um, thank you, Brother Rue. Appreciate it. Thank you kindly. Yeah, man. So good dawning, or for some, I guess we're going afternoon now. For some, give thanks, free game. Yeah, good afternoon to you all. Shabbat shalom. I will that your day has been going well. You've been able to get your rest that you willfully have deserved because of your 6 days of toil. All right, so let's get right into it, man. We're going to keep the high going from, let me get this out the way. We're going to keep the high going from last night's session where we were building, in our Shema studies. And we're going to start with Isaiah 54. All right. This is going to be kind of a, when I talk about those rides, I think the last couple of segments or insights that I offered were the go for the ride type. So this one is no different. All right. It's going to be a ride again for both of us. All right. So we're going to start with Isaiah 54. I'm breaking up. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I don't think this really, let me see. All right. So I'm going to do something and it's going to cause me to go off for a second if I'm breaking up, and then I'm going to be right back. All right. So just so you know, I'll be right back. It's going to break up, then it's going to come back. I'm basically going to switch networks. Okay. So I know it probably froze for a second there, and willfully I'm back and I'm okay. Okay, loud, I'm clear. All right, cool. So yeah, like I said, so turning your Bibles to Isaiah 54. No, Isaiah 54. And if you want to read along, feel free. But you know what, man? Even if you don't read along now, always read along later. Always verify what it is that you're being told. Always look it up for yourself. And see where your understanding takes you with it as well. It may not necessarily be exactly where mine does. I've had people say that, and someone said it recently, was like, man, how do you see all this? I want to be able to see it, at least be able to see it like you do, which is like, at least. But the thing about that is that there's a certain level of illumination that comes when you are constantly saturating yourself and immersing yourself in this level of study, man. So, you have to do it for yourself. You have to, pick up the information and pick up the scrolls or the tomes, if you will, for yourself. It doesn't come overnight. I promise you, it doesn't come overnight. All right. So it didn't come for me overnight either. So, and probably for most of you who are even saying that, to be honest with you, you're probably further along than I was, when I had as much time as you do. So sometimes we don't realize like how well we're doing. That's why the community is important to let you know, like, nah, you all right, you got this. Wow, man, none of y'all got it right. Isaiah 54. Zach said 59. Paco Bahama said 55. And Kashia got it, 54. Yeah. Isaiah 54. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna read a little bit and then we're gonna break a little bit down. All right. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud. Thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord, or saith Yahuwah. Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitations. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. For thy maker is thine husband. The Elohim of hosts is his name, and thy redeemer, the Holy One of Yeshrael. The Elohim of the whole earth shall he be called. For Yahuwah hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth, when thou wouldst refuseth, saith thy Yah. For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Yahuwah, thy Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah shall no more go over the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. For the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Yah that hath mercy on thee. O thou afflicted, tosseth with tempest, and not comforted, behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires, and I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy borders of pleasant stones. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. And righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringing forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and their righteousness is of me, saith Yahuwah. All right, cool. So we got that part down, right? And I'm pretty sure, like, especially for those of you who may have, I'm guessing, come up in the Christian church or been around Christians, you've probably heard the "No weapon formed against me." I mean, many people have turned it into songs, and it's almost like the blood of Jesus. People just, whenever, a lot of times they disagree with you, or they don't want to take accountability for the part they play in something, they say, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper," the blood of Jesus, instead of just really being accountable, right? And they only usually share that part. They don't share the whole scripture, which is, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and their righteousness is of me, saith Yahuwah." So it's like, that's the case if you're actually a servant, and if you're living in a righteous way, then you're able to say, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper, and any tongue that speak judgment against me I shall later condemn." And what this is speaking about is that moment when there's restoration and there's deliverance, right? So that's pretty much what we're going to be building on a little bit, is the concept of deliverance. And it's a tricky one for a lot of people, because some people can acknowledge maybe having certain issues in life, right? Certain things that may be afflicting them or certain problems that, they may be struggling with. Um, and sometimes they feel like, okay, I've gotten over this, so I'm good. So let's say if you had maybe had a drug addiction, or maybe you had an emotional addiction to certain behaviors that led to certain activities, whether it's going to eat certain things or to drink certain things or to watch certain things or to engage in certain activities, because all of those kind of addictions, most of them are not chemical, but they're emotional, right? Um, when you're able to get past that, a lot of times people will then say, well, I'm good. Like, I had this particular issue. I no longer have the issue. I've been delivered from that. But one of the things when you read more in the Greek Testament, you read about how Yahushua would cast demons out of the multitude, right? So one of the things that tells you is that it wasn't just that every one person had one demon, but it's that one person may have had 100 demons, 200 demons, 300 demons. Being delivered from what is blocking and obstructing our way to being stronger people, being better people. That's a lifetime work. It's not something you do. It's like, oh, I'm good now. Yeah, I used to do this. I don't do it anymore. So now I'm good. I'm on cruise control. The only people who really think like that really are people who, there was a phrase I used to hear called playing church. They play church. They're not really serious. They're just playing. You have that in so many different walks. It doesn't, it transcends just out of the church, but just even in the general realms of spirituality, the general realms of culture, you always have people who don't take it seriously because they don't take themselves seriously. That's common, right? And maybe because they came in with one issue, sometimes it may have just been a health issue, and they've been able to kind of cure that situation. They don't want to hear anything else. They're pretty much done, and they feel like they've now cemented themselves within the halls of the righteous, right? So let's go back again a little bit to Isaiah 54. I just wanted to kick it off with Isaiah 54 because I'd say it's a very, this is Israel being spoken to. And as Israel is being spoken to, it is the Most High who is positioning itself as Israel's husband. So it's basically saying, I had to turn my view from you for a while, right? Because of the things that you were doing. And now we're coming into a time where prosperity opens up for you because you haven't been able to produce anything, and there's been a shame behind that. That's what you get that in the very first verse, where it says, "Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith Yahuwah." Right. So you got to understand, we're speaking ancient Yisrael. In ancient Yisrael, to be a woman who was barren was considered to be a shameful thing. That was something that a woman would hang her head low in. Not just barrenness, but even not having children. Not having a man. We also read in Isaiah about a woman or 7 women grabbing one man to say, just take away my reproach. Like, you don't even have to provide provisions for me, this or that. Just let me be able to be called by your namesake. Let me be able to say I'm in your household, so I'm no longer viewed, or I'm just no longer am a single woman, because it's that shameful. As I've said before, single women, it's an indecency. Period. It's indecent. When you see a woman out walking the streets by herself, that's indecent. When you see a woman walking at night, that's indecent. There are so many different things that we do because we've slipped so far away from our customs that actually were indigenous, that gave us power, that allowed us to kingdom build and empire build. We've moved into this place of indecency, and so many no longer have a shame around it. There's a pride sometimes. I mean, there's articles that come out like every day now about how women are foregoing children for career, and why it's okay to say no to children, things like that. But that's not our culture. Maybe for some people that's okay, and I'm not knocking them. But as an Israelite, that's not how we do, right? So I can only speak for us, and others I'll let them speak for them, and whatever they want to live, and whoever they want to marry, and whoever they choose to love. And whatever their preferences are, that's going to be a product of their culture. It's all good. There is a concept of religion, and then there's a concept of culture. And even though your religion is supposed to sit inside of your culture, sometimes people will claim a certain religion, but really they're living a different culture. So that means they're not really that religion. So for instance, if I say I'm a Christian, but I'm living death culture, then my religion is not actually Christianity. My religion is the product of that death culture. It probably just doesn't have a name, or I haven't heard anyone articulate the name, but it's not Christianity, because Christianity is not a death religion. If I can be a Jew, for instance, and not necessarily be an Israelite, because I can say, hey, that's my religion, but what is your culture? You see, your religion is always going to sit inside of your culture, regardless of what comes out of your mouth. You see that even in what we call ATR. I might say, oh, I practice Yoruba tradition. There's no such thing as that, right? As I've said so many times, just like there's no such thing as African traditional religion. It doesn't exist. But my religion becomes spookism when I say things like that. My religion becomes, I do what my ancestors did. Which ancestors? Which ones? What exactly can you write it down for me so that I can repeat the steps of what they did? Can you show me some level of scientific process? Because that's the aspect. When we are following a scientific process, we set up a controlled environment where we can reproduce the results of someone else. So if you're telling me this is what your ancestors did and they built this and they did that, okay, show me so I can reproduce it. And if you can't, then you following mystery gods. You're just not calling it a mystery god. You're calling it my ancestors. You're calling it my tradition. You're calling it my spirit. You're calling it my ori, without really an understanding of any of those things. So it's very possible for you to do the exact same thing, calling yourself what we might call a big three religion. Oh, I'm Muslim. Oh, I'm Christian. Oh, I'm Hebrew. But what is your culture? Because your culture is really what you are, right? So in this time, being a barren woman, when you look at that first, that was considered to be like, a desolation. It was a desolation, and it was a shame. So there was a level of disgrace, we would say, and humiliation that the Israelites were feeling at that time, right? Comparing it, and it being compared to a barren woman. And Yahuwah tells Isaiah, like, yo, tell him to sing out. Yeah, you're barren. Yeah, just sing out. Why should you sing out? Because there's a glory that's getting ready to come. So when he says, enlarge the place of thy tent and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitations, spare not, lengthen thy cords and strengthen thy stakes. So basically what he's saying is build additions onto your home, right? Even though you may be in a situation where you've been disgraced by these people, there's a level of humiliation, there's a level of shame, and of course, you've not been able to be fruitful as of yet. You've not been able to produce as of yet. Make room, because I'm getting ready to bring something to you. Make room, okay? So a lot of times that's a difficult thing when you're playing church, for instance. When you're in that situation where you're just kind of going along to get along, and you're not really connecting with that energy, or you're not really connecting with that spirit yourself, it's hard for you to envision anything beyond where you're currently at, right? Oftentimes, we are also distracted purposely by things that we need to be delivered from. So I'm going to give you one of the things that many of us who are kind of teetering between different worlds of spiritual awareness, what we teeter on, and which messes us up. One of them is divination, right? Now, if you read my book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power, I speak about divination. I give ways to divine, and I speak about connecting to the Ori. But one of the things that I start that chapter off with is divining can happen just looking in nature, looking for signs and things that are happening around you. This tree is moving like that. That bird is flying like that. When you're connected on a deeper level, the divining becomes confirmations of something else. Now, what is the divination supposed to be a confirmation of? Any of you who've ever had divination sessions with me, you've heard me say things like this before, like, listen, you don't have to be scared that I'm going to come in and like ruin your life, or this, I'm going to invite some monkey spirit into your house, anything like that. All we're going to do is just look at the destiny that's already been implanted inside of your consciousness, inside of your head. When that breath of life was blown into you, we're going to see how much of it we can read with my own breath of life. We're going to connect these two auras together and then see how much we can interpret from that spiritual communication. But what it is what it is. What it's going to be is what it's already going to be. So you can learn to bring out the best of it, or you can go against it and make your life harder. But what it's going to be is what it's going to be, right? Divination becomes the antithesis of prophecy, right? So the first thing you have to understand when we're dealing with the concepts of deliverance and reclaiming the promises, because this is a promise that the Elohim is giving through Isaiah. And Isaiah's name, Yeshua Yahah, which would be how you would say it. It means Yah delivers, or Yah saves, right? So when Isaiah comes with this prophecy, he's saying, listen, I know things were rough, but let me tell you what's getting ready to happen, right? So I'm saving you from this mental anguish and this mental disgrace and humiliation that you're currently going through. Man, everything is messed up. Everything is this. You ever look at Dead Prez video? I think it's All Yeah, it's the name of the song. But at the end of the video, Stickman, he kind of wakes up. He's on the beach with all his wives. And he's like, yo, I had this dream that we were in America and we had nothing. And, and they're like, it's okay, my king, go back to sleep, But the whole video was basically just, Black American life that the Negro has chosen to go through because of an abandonment of the Hebrew culture, right? And he wakes up and he's like, yo, that's a nightmare. So when Isaiah comes, the concept of Yah saves, or Yah delivers, or Yah is salvation. The salvation is not necessarily I'm coming with the spaceship and I'm gonna pull you out of your situation. The salvation is two things. I'm gonna show you what the promise is. I'm going to show you what the prophecy is. And once you understand, or once you see what the prophecy is, then you'll know how to move better, number one. And I'm also going to remind you of something. And I'm going to remind you that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Well, what is the weapon that was formed against you? The weapon that was formed against you was the seraphims, was Enki. It was those that seek to take your somatic. You remember in the Greek, the word body, they use the word soma, and soma is as somatic, but it's dealing with your senses. It's dealing with your physical or your human experience, right? So to be able to subdue the body, or for the head, as we spoke about last night in Shema, for the head to guide the body is similar to being able to tread on the head of serpents. Once you tread on the head of serpents, that particular serpentine mind, or that particular serpentine thought that was seeking to control your body, you've now stomped it out. You see? So what the serpent does with that weapon that it forms against you is that it takes the opposite of whatever Yah has promised you, and it gives you something else. It just reverses everything, right? And then when you start feeling unsure about the reversal, it then comes in the form of divination. It's just, all right, well, let's divine on it, and let's see what's up, even though you already are supposed to know what's up, right? So there's times when I've had sessions with people, and it could be something related to a mate. Will I be mated? Yes, you'll be mated. Okay, when? Doesn't matter. You're going to be mated. So, or have you prepared yourself to be mated? That's what you should be asking me, not when is it going to happen. Have you expanded your tent? Have you pulled back your curtains? Have you sung aloud despite what's happening? Did you run out of the shrine saying, I'm going to be mated, I'm going to be mated. Let me hurry up home and let me get my house together. Let me go work out. Let me go do this. Let me, whatever it is that you feel, or you're instructed that you need to do in order to claim that prophecy. Or do you want further divination, which then eventually will start to become opinion? You see that a lot when you're around religious people. They always have a word to give you, right? And a lot of times it's just because they want attention. you know, oh man, I had a dream about you last night, or Lord told me to tell you this, and you get that stuff all the time. It's not real. It's not real. You got to stand on the prophecies that were already given. Look, this prophecy was given. Whatever you're talking about is whatever you're talking about. All right. But 9 times out of 10, people just do that because they want attention, you know. And again, I have to figure out a way to circumvent what it is that the Most High has already given you. The Most High has already told you from the beginning, you will tread on the heads of serpent. The Most High already told you from the beginning, I will put enmity between you and this one seed. There'll be enmity between you. So there's already been these messages that have already told us that there's going to come a time when we get to master the body, right? So there are people, even, right, that will channel certain energies to keep us from ever doing it, right? I'm gonna go through a couple of other. It's just right before the segment started. I just jotted down a few. Um, my envelope system jotted down a few scriptures that made me think of it. Psalms 109 and 17, right? Or just Psalms 109, 17th verse. As he loved cursing, so let it come unto him. As he delighted not in blessing, so let it be far from him. As he clothed himself with cursing, like as with his garment, so let it come into his bowels like water, and like oil into his bones. Let it be unto him as a garment which covereth him, and for a girdle wherewith he is girded continually. Let this be the reward of mine adversaries from Yahuwah, and of them that speak evil against my soul. Right? So that's deep. That's real deep, man. Because what that's speaking about is, people who, that's the hex, as he loved cursing, so let it come unto you. Right. So that's similar to when you're dealing with something on a spiritual level and you light a black candle. Right. A lot of people go crazy over the black candle. Oh man, I don't do black magic. Right. Okay. Don't do it. Maybe it ain't for you. But the black candle, the science of the black candle is not I'm sending you evil. The science of the black candle is that I'm absorbing and then returning whatever you sent to me back to you. So if you're not sending anything to me, then everything is cool. Everybody can live peacefully. If you are, whatever it is that you wish towards me is what you're going to get. It's the Pee Wee Herman, I know you are, but what am I, right? So that concept of he loved cursing, so let it come unto him, right? That's the form of respecting the prophecy. Sometimes people will try to curse against our souls. They'll curse against the spirit of what we're doing, but they'll curse against our families, so forth and so on. And we want to go into action. That's a level of something that we need to be delivered from. We feel like, well, I'm holy and I'm this and I'm that. But you know what? If you say something about my mama or my daddy or my children, I'm going to put my hands on you. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that because it's justifiable based on the level of offense that you've just committed, right? That is demonic, to be honest with you. That's something that some of us, like myself, in a full admission, have to fight against, and maybe have to fight against for a long time. You know what? Just because someone threatens you, it doesn't mean that you hit them. You go choke them out or whatever it is, because what that is that's a demon trying to get into your body, right? The demons will always get into your body to get to your mind. They never get into your mind. You don't have to worry about that. Demons don't use intellect in order to try to get you. Demons use things like frustration, irritation, anger, hunger, loneliness, ego, self-righteousness. All those different things that have a physical reaction, that's the opening. And they just need a little bit of space to get in. Oh, you're lonely. There we go. Why am I lonely? Because I forgot I had ancestors. Okay, so I'm in, right? So as he loved cursing, so let it come unto him, as he delighteth not in blessing. That's a very common thing that you see people who are demonically possessed. There is no delight in blessing. There is no congratulations for another person. There is never an acknowledgement of anyone else doing good. All they usually typically have for you is complaints, or typically have a whole lot of ridicule, or yeah, you did this, but you could have did that, right? So a blessing is given and it almost becomes an irritant for them. Why? Because they love cursing. They love the curse. They love for things to be. We'll get into what that means in a second. But as he clothes himself with cursing, like as was with his garment, so let it come into his bowels like water and like oil into his bones. So a person who makes cursing their habit, or haterism, or negativity their habit, it begins to saturate. So it doesn't just become something that you just flick off. Like, all right, I hate it. Let me wake up today, figure out who I can hate on, who I can try to deter their purpose. Because if I'm cussing towards your soul is the seat of your intelligence. The soul is the seat of your purpose. So if I'm trying to cuss against your soul, I'm literally trying to cuss against your birthright. I'm cussing against your purpose. I'm cussing against the divine quest that you've been sent on, right? And then I might think, oh, I'm gonna do that, and then I go home, take the garment off, or take that mask off, and I'm whoever I am for my family. But the prophecy says, like, no, a person who does that, it soaks down into their bones. It soaks down into their bowels like water. It just begins to flow through them. So they become the curse that they wished upon you. Very important when you think about who's being spoken to. Again, admonitions to Israel. When you're worried about, man, they doing this to us, they doing that, they doing that, and you hear things like, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And then for those of us who have a sense of deeper cultural understanding, we'll say, oh man, that's some slave talk. Because Nat Turner, we'll start bringing up all of our different historical heroes, even though no one's doing any work like that right now. we wear the t-shirts and stuff like that, but no one's really getting down like that. But we'll cite those sort of things without realizing, wait a minute, is that really necessary, considering there's a prophecy I got to pay attention to, and me divining something other than that. Now I could be a tool towards that prophecy. It is definitely my understanding, for me, that Nat Turner was a tool towards the prophecy of all of Yisrael, because he's someone who stood up as a Hebrew. He's someone who said, we're the children of Israel, and you're oppressing us like the taskmasters of old. Yeah. And that was what fueled him to do whatever he was getting ready to go do. So that sort of thinking and sending that energy out into the world, yeah, it certainly does now hit little babies and hit wombs, and hits the genital area of young men. And now it saturates them, and then what they produce going forward has that mind frame too. I'm the chosen people. You've been cursing me. You tried to steal my birthright, but it's me, actually. It's me. And me reclaiming my birthright, you've even dropped little lugs inside of the Black community to try to make me think that if I claim my birthright, I'm giving up my Blackness. If I pull out a Bible, I'm giving up my Blackness. If I pull out an Apocrypha, I'm giving up my Blackness. If I pull out a Book of Mormons, I'm giving up my Blackness somehow, without realizing that the consciousness of being Black is written all in those books. And me being tricked away from them is a part of you cursing my birthright, right? So in Psalms 109:20, let this be the reward of mine adversaries from Yahuwah, and them that speak evil against my soul. There is a prophecy here, but it's also telling you something that's kind of tumbling out. This is the effect of that sort of behavior. This is what that becomes, because when you read 109:28, it says, when they arise, let them be ashamed, right? Let them cover themselves with their own confusion. Let them cover themselves with their own confusion. You know, one of the things that you'll find with individuals who seek to really push a demonic agenda, they're confusing, right? I was speaking about this earlier today. One of the things that they like to do is microaggression is like their tool. They use it for everything, and they have these ways of creating all of these different micro slants that they'll throw at you, right? So let's say you're talking to them. Within maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, they'll insult you like 20 times. It could be through their gesticulations, giving you hands and stuff, and they got a subtle way of doing it. It could be rolling an eye, sucking their teeth, or the way they might even refer to someone else. You notice whenever they refer to someone else, they kind of mock them, or they make their first face a certain way, like, well, so-and-so said it, right? They have all these little micro things they do, and in little ways of throwing shade at you, right? And if you let it persist, if you don't stomp it out right then and there, by the end of this little 5 minute whatever exchange you might have with them, they might have insulted you like 30 times. So by the time you really bring something up to them, you might just bring up 2 of them because it's become so convoluted, you can't remember everything that they just finished doing. And they do that on purpose, right? Well, what did I do? And then you'll mention something they did, and they'll focus on the one thing that you can remember. Right? Oh, well, you just said that, my house stinks. I say that to everybody. I was just joking. Come on. Yeah, but I got to add it up with the 29 other things that you just said too. And you're just sitting here insulting. Well, what did I say? I can't remember all of it, but you know what you said. Well, if you can't remember it, that, my friends, is a devil. That's a devil. Okay. Nothing short of. I want you to understand that that's a devil that you're talking to. And you might be like, my mother does that. Yeah, your mother's a devil. My dad does that. Your dad's a devil. My wife does it. Your wife's a devil. Your husband's a devil. I mean, you get it now? I think you get the point now, right? And I'm going to show you in a moment how we know that that's actually a devil. Okay. But it's that confusion that they keep going on. A lot of times you'll even see there's a certain level of elation and confusion. I had a relative like that. She used to do stuff like that all the time. She would orchestrate these really bad situations. Like, let's say, because she tried to do this to me once. I was like, let me stop you right there, right? There was a relative that I didn't mess with, right? I hadn't spoken to this person in maybe like 3 years, and it was one of those situations where it was like, I need a break. And for me, I take long breaks from people, like longer than the average person. So you'd be like 3 years. Yeah. Because I knew that if I spent too much time around this individual, I was going to hurt them. I knew it. Like, in fact, the last time I had seen that person, there was people holding me back from hitting him. Like, that was, so I had 3 guys on my arms. It was like, y'all can't do this, y'all family, and he's just standing there, but and he's kind of one of those people too that likes to cause up things because he was pushing. And I'm like, come on, man, stop, don't do that. And then they finally did something that could have potentially put me in a really bad legal bind. I'll just say that. It was something criminal that they were doing. And it was affecting me, right? So I was like, yo, I can't mess with you. So this other relative tried to orchestrate an experience where essentially me and this person would be driving in a car together for 11 hours. This is like 3 years later. And it was just acting like they didn't know anything about anything that happened. It was like, yeah, I figured you two can just share a ride. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't do that. Why? What's the problem? And as soon as I heard that, I could hear the devil. And I said it to the person. I said, when I hear you talk, sometimes I hear Satan talking. And this was an older woman in my family, like almost like you would say an elder. I was like, yeah, I hear Satan talk when you talk sometimes, And when I said that, it's very similar. If you ever call a cop a devil, you notice they never respond. That's what she did. She didn't, no response, no nothing. I was telling the truth, right? She wasn't like, why would you call me Satan? Nothing, no response. Because I'm talking to Satan. Satan's just happy. Like, oh, God is talking to me. I got God's attention. Hey, I've been trying to get your attention for years. You know? So I said, of course, I said, nah, we're not doing that. I said, you got this sick mentality, and I had to explain it to her so she's clear on, I know you. I said, you got this sick mentality. You'll take two children who are fighting and trying to kill each other, and then you'll throw them in a bathtub together and say, go wash up. And then when one is drowning the other, you'll come in and try to be the peacemaker. That's real devilish. And I said, no, I'm not messing with you. Get up out my face with that. I haven't spoken to that particular relative in years either, right? So people who like to sometimes stir up confusion, and then once everybody's or there's a whole lot of melee, they'll try to come in as the peacemaker. Or you could see there's a look of elation on their face where they're just like, there'll always be a little smirk. Well, why are you smirking? I don't know, because y'all sound crazy. I don't know, man. Y'all all over the place. Because of you. You did this. You're a devil, right? So that acknowledgement, let them cover themselves with their own confusion. What you have to do, I used to talk about this years ago in segments. You got to learn to play volleyball, right? They throw it to you, throw it back. I'm not holding that. Whatever because people who even move as devils will do that to you sometimes. You'll say, you really upset me when you did such and such. They'll smirk. I upset you? What you mean I upset you? What are you talking about? They just put it right back on you. You find that when you're dealing with devilish people who like to stir up confusion, they want you to do most of the talking. You see, the more you talk, the more excited they are. Because they're not into they use their talking at first, but then after that, they just like to see their machinations go to work. And sometimes the machination is what they're able to solicit in you. So a lot of times, one of the best things is, like it says, let them clothe themselves in their own confusion. Now you can have that. I don't want that. We mean over here. I don't want it. You take that. You take your confusion and you go down the street. There's times when I've had to remove people from my new and had that same experience. They start something up. Let me stop you right there before you go. Nah, it's time for you to leave. But I didn't even explain I know what this is. I see you, Satan. I already know what this is. You're going to take that ball of, you done built up this nice, big, waxy, sticky ball of confusion. And you thought you was going to go to everybody and smear it on everybody. And what I'm going to do is, while you holding it, I'm going to push you out the door. Now you're going to have to hold that and figure out what to do with your own confusion. You see? So Psalms 140:9 says, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let the mischief of and what we're talking about here is deliverance. Like, how do I begin to kind of be delivered from these issues that I have, or the issues that maybe I allow other people to bring to me? These are just some basic techniques, right? And we have to learn these basic techniques in order to claim the prophecies of Isaiah 54. It just doesn't come to you. People will, like I said, will read that. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. That's not for you. That's for, as it said, right underneath that, servants of the Most High. You're not serving the Most High, so that's not your prophecy. So whatever weapon is formed against you, it will prosper, right? Because you don't really have your armor. And a lot of times our armor is deteriorated because of these particular situations that we allow to persist in our life. So let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Mischief of their own lips cover them. Now, you could imagine, for me as a man, sometimes how I have to apply that, right? Examples. So there's times when I might have a woman that I'm with, I've covered, and she's a little shady. Let's say, you can't really trust when she tells you something. She leaves out details. She twists facts all the time, things like that. You just kind of know you're never really getting the full story. So what you do is you step back and say, you know what? I can't cover you acting like that. You cover yourself. Let your lies cover you, because you obviously have more faith in your lies than you do in the prophecy that's been lived out inside of this space, right? So as opposed to me trying to untangle your lies, or trying to defeat and battle against your lies, the battle is not with your lies. I'm going to get into that in a second. The battle is not against that, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the strength of your own lie. I'm going to show. Let's see how much faith you have in your double talk. How much it could truly carry you through life, or do you just like to come amongst the righteous and do that? Because maybe the righteous are that, but they also are not wise to their own birthright and understanding that don't have to deal with that. Right? That's why what I knew is the application process. Does some people get rejected? Yeah, some people get rejected. We don't have to deal with everything, don't have to really deal with anything, truly. We're not like government funded and we have to have a certain quota. There has to be a certain amount of people. No, we're free. So if you're coming with some nonsense, we'll let your nonsense be your cover. You don't need one of us men to cover you. Proverbs 26:2. So the curse causeless shall not come. So speaking about the concept of cursing someone, for whatever cause, you will not come, right? So that's the whole concept of, everybody can't come. Everybody doesn't make it, because some people are cursing your soul. People who are just here playing, they're not serious. They're durational, or they're siphoning energy out of the cipher. They're not adding anything. They're just present, and they think that their presence is the end all be all. I'm here with y'all. Well, you ain't really adding anything. So if you're not adding anything, you're clearly just adding more weight to the ship. And so in that sense, you really cannot come to the next level, because you've become a curse to this entire experience, right? We look at like I said, I just wrote down a couple of scriptures here that relate. Isaiah 53:12, he shall divide the spoil with the strong. Very important. He shall divide the spoil with the strong, meaning that there's times where we have opportunities to reclaim our prophecy of getting back on top where we're supposed to be. And there are people that are being separated from us. You often have those experiences, man, where you're doing something great, you're doing something powerful, and you may be doing it with friends. And then all of a sudden your friend will start tripping. And you're like, wait a minute, we were doing this together. Like we're like Al Jarreau, we're in this love together, and all of a sudden they just start to pretty much just fall off. And you're sitting there figuring out, like, what happened? And you're trying to have certain conversations with them and not realizing that there's a divine experience happening right now, because the strong are being separated from the spoiled. You see, the strong are being separated from the spoiled. So having that level of strength, it essentially means that in order for you to be determined as strong, you're going to have the same exact kind of experience that the spoiled are having, right? So it's not that something bad is happening to them, and as a result, they're having to separate themselves from where you are. We're both going through the same thing, right? We're both going through the same thing. However, we're now proving our mettle. And I have proven myself to be strong. You have proven yourself to be spoiled. Spoiled things are usually soft. They're usually rotten. You take a spoiled pineapple or a spoiled mango, you could put your finger, right through it. Whereas as opposed to one, obviously, that is strong, you can't put your finger right through it. So we're both having the same test, but the test is coming from the Most High, right? And the Most High is making a determination. What are you made of? Are you rotten inside? Because when you're spoiled, that's where it's coming from. Are you rotten inside and no longer any good, or are you strong from the inside? So 54:17 in Isaiah, every tongue arise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn, right? So that's a flipping of rulership, right? Because it's the judge that has the potential and the ability to condemn, right? And then it comes to a point, which is why there are so many police killings right now. There's so much brutality. People are still shooting places up because there's a sense in them. There's a spiritual sense in certain people on this planet that know that these people who we have been condemning all this time are going to be judging us soon, according to the prophecy. According to the prophecy, right? Um, there's something that's important when you're trying to get to a place where you want to fix these things that you need to be delivered from, and or fix these things that are keeping you from really taking claim and hold of what it is that is yours, really, because this is yours. We're not talking about some extra blessing that comes in. This is ground. This is ground level. My birthright is ground level, right? Just like my youth have certain things that have been entrusted to them when I transition and move on, right? But the things that have been entrusted to them are not like they still require good stewardship. It's similar to like the Vanderbilts. They inherited their fortune in like 2, 3 generations. It was gone, right? Because they weren't necessarily good stewards of it. They didn't, like Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt, right? They didn't know how to continue that forward, So that concept there, when you're talking about your birthright, don't think like I claim that and it's like heaven, it's all good. I don't have to know. There's a certain preparation that we go through in order to receive what it is that we're supposed to have and then use the tools of what we're supposed to have to go to where we're supposed to go, right? That's why it says those who are spoiled won't come. You can't even come, right? Because you don't have it in you. We've already tested you. We see where you're at. You ain't coming, right? There's something that becomes very difficult for people a lot of times that keeps them really from being delivered, right? And for those of us who, like, I wrote the book Grasping the Root of Divine Power. You notice I use the word root a lot. Roots are important, right? Where things begin with, or where things are pulling their nourishment from, right? So when you have something that you need to be delivered from that is causing you obstructions to where you're supposed to be, right? And that's important for us all to recognize, because there are people who we think are supposed to be here with us. And sometimes you might be running side by side with a devil and don't even know it, right? So you're like, well, we're trying to get here. We're trying to go to higher heights. And the person is like, no, actually, I'm trying to keep you from higher heights. You just don't know it. I've been pulling you back all this time. You just don't know it, So one of the important things about that is, when you are attacking evil or dysfunction, the definition of evil is dysfunction, right? When you are attacking things that are dysfunctional, not functioning right within you, not functioning right within another, and you're attacking that, you have to attack it from the roots. Whereas there are those, there's a saying that says that, some people will attack evil from the roots while others are flaying at the leaves, right? So there's a lot of times we'll be flaying at the leaves and, beat back this evil, and the roots are thriving. The roots like, whatever, you can knock all the leaves off you want, it's fine. I am thoroughly rooted in this space. I am thoroughly rooted in your body. I am thoroughly rooted in the earth, which is your body. I am thoroughly rooted. You can knock all the leaves off you want. I'll be back next season. I ain't going nowhere, right? Now, why is it that we don't like to dig things up from the root or address things from the root? Well, the reason we don't like to address things from the root is because in order to dig up those roots, you got to get your hands dirty. You might break a fingernail. You might even break a sweat trying to pull that thing up from the root. It's so much easier to go with my little pruning shears and, oh, it's so cute. Do my little Mr. Miyagi with the bonsai and cut a leaf. And that's fun. That's cute. I'm playing now. That's like playing church. But when it comes time to dig it up from the roots, we got to get dirty. We're not going to be as attractive through this process. The process itself isn't attractive. We're going to be walking around and have soil and all kind of stuff on us. And we may cut our hands and things like that in order to get this thing that's wrapped itself around my spirit out of my system. You see, so honestly, there's a level of house cleaning that has to happen because very few people are truly willing to get their hands dirty. This is where divination comes in. You could tell somebody, hey, you have to do A, B, C, and D. This is a part of your birthright. This is a part of your prophecy. They'll go to a reader that will tell them, no, you just got to light a candle. You just got to do a spiritual bath. You just have to light a card, a playing card to Michael the Archangel. That's all you got to do. And then everything will be fine. Now, of course, you just pruned some leaves. You just cut some leaves back. So you're looking like it is better. I can see better. But then it comes back again. And what do you do when it comes back again? You either go back to that same person again, or most of you, what you do is you start blaming somebody else. I did the work and it worked. It was effective, but it came back because I think somebody is steady putting work on me. Somebody's doing work. That's what happens. Now, why did that happen? You didn't dig it up from the roots. In order to dig things up from the roots, you got to deal with your character. How long have you heard me say that? Character, character, character. And like I said, whenever I do the character segments, those get the lowest views. Why do those get the lowest views? Because that's the demon inside of you saying, don't watch that. Oh, you don't need to watch nothing on character, honor, integrity. You already know all about that. You need to watch the stuff on rituals. That's what you need to watch. You need to watch on the stuff on divinations and shell divination and rituals. That's more important. That doesn't fix anything at the roots. You've heard me say 100 million times, magic is temporary. Magic is temporary. Magic is temporary. So the things that you bind inside of your spirit get bound in the unseen realm. They get bound throughout dimensions. The magic that you perform here is only for here. It doesn't even go to the astral planes. That's why you could perform a certain ritual here on earth and you can fix a certain thing here on earth, but then when you go to bed at night to sleep, you'll still be oppressed by that same fear because it couldn't even make its way to bound the situation in the astral realms. It's only earth energy. It's not until you deal with the character, you deal with remember, your character is like taking a stamp and putting it into something that it stays there forever. If you put a stamp into gold or put a stamp into lead, it's your character is your glyph. So when you're changing your character, you're actually changing your receptors. You see, it's just like disease. There are diseases that are able to travel through the body because of the way that they mate and connect with the surface level receptors that are on certain cells, right? That's why when certain cells will go through our spleen, they'll go through our spleen and they're myelinated or they're covered with a certain thing. Sometimes this is how cancer spreads because cancerous cells are shaped a certain way, but they'll go through the spleen and they'll get covered and the body will think that they're not antigens. The body will, so it won't create antibodies for it. The body will recognize it as something that's supposed to be there because it's been covered. Instead of allowing something to be covered in its own lies and covered in its own confusion, sometimes we cover it. And then when we cover it, I've had plenty of situations like that actually, where I've let people come around. And the way I am, if you're around me, I'm always going to big you up. Always. Even if you're not really all that, I'm going to big you up because I don't want anybody, I want people to think the best of my people, right? So I'll always say, oh yeah, so-and-so was into this and they doing this and that, even if I'm, like just exaggerating a little bit, like, like parents kind of do. But as a result, I'm now covering you with the coating, which now makes it so that people can't really see your shape and can't really see that you may be a cancerous cell because you've been covered. You see, like in Anu, when we call each other a Koti and a Kot and Abba and Ima, we're just assuming that you're a brother. We're assuming that you're a sister. We're assuming that you're a father or mother or a grandfather or grandmother. That's a coding. But that could also hide the fact that maybe you're not that, right? So a lot of times when you start to see someone who's establishing and cultivating confusion, you got to pull the coding away. You say, okay, let's see what you can do on your own. Let's see what kind of connections you make on your own, because you have certain cells that they will cannibalize antibodies. They go on the offensive. So essentially what happens is you have certain cells that are toxic to the body, that are injurious to the body. And when the body produces certain antibodies to try to save you from the damage that that cell might do, the cell can turn around and fight the antibody and defeat it and eat it and cannibalize it, right? Some build up that level of strength because they've been covered for so long. So sometimes you got to pull that covering back, right? Um, so when you read, yeah, I'll use this one, Matthew 12 and 29, right? Like I said, I was just writing down different ones, so I'm skipping around a little bit, but I think you all are probably following me pretty well, right? I'm keeping it simple. And again, we're talking about deliverance. Like, how do we claim the promises of Isaiah 54? How do we claim those promises? And how do we start to deal with the things that it is that we need to be delivered from that are keeping us from owning those promises, right? One of the things to understand too with Isaiah 54, when you have the 54, you have the number 9, you know, and in our Kabbalah, that deals with victory. That deals with overcoming. It deals with victory, right? So that 54 being that victory, when you're reading that 54th chapter, it's all about now, okay, you've gone through this, you've been in desolation, you've been barren, you've been this, you've been that. But let me tell you what's coming for those who maintain their level of connection and servitude to the Most High. And of course, a lot of us, we have issues with terms like servitude, right? We really shy away from that, of course. But it's because we just don't understand. We don't understand. To be a servant to the Most High is to be a servant to intelligence, supreme intelligence that goes beyond the planet, right? So that basically means I'm going to do the right thing all the time. That's what it means. I'm going to do the right thing all the time, you know. So Matthew 12 and 29 says, or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man and then he will spoil his house. Okay, that is such a critical piece, right? I'll read it again. Or else how, and this is again Matthew 12:29, if anybody who didn't, hear it. Or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man and then he will spoil his house. You've heard me say before that early invaders of the continent of Akibalan used to say castrate the man, then rape the woman, right? So you bind this, and this scripture is talking about binding, right? You bind the man, and then once you bind the man, then you will spoil the house. But how can you enter into the strong man's house and spoil his goods, right? So when we say spoil the goods, we're not saying take his goods. We're not saying steal his goods. We're not saying sell his goods. We're saying just spoil them. We're not even going to use them for commerce. We're going to destroy them. Can I do that? Yep, there we go. Cool. I wasn't even looking in the chat this whole time. I look to the right and I see your dreams online. So I caught some crap right when I looked. That was a good timing. But so anyway, so again, how do we deal with that, right? Because what we're talking about, someone there who's get out of here satin. Okay, I like satin's all right. I mean, it's made with polyester, so I really don't wear too much satin. I prefer silk. Well, yeah, get out of here, satin. I agree with you. You're gonna use it silk, But so what we're they're getting you now, Zach. So the idea and the concept now there of spoiling the goods, right? I bind that man, and specifically the strong man. Bind the strong man, then go into his house and spoil the goods, right? So I don't mix family. True. So the concept there is we're not just looking at what is done to the righteous. See, a lot of times when we read certain things, we're reading it from the perspective of this is what they're doing to us. But you can also read it from this perspective of this is what I do to you. So when you have a wicked energy that is strong, how would you deal with it? You bind it. Then you go into the house and you spoil its goods. Well, what are its goods? The things that it's using to survive, the things that it's using to live. You go into the house and you spoil those things and make them no good to live anymore or no good to use anymore. And that's how you defeat what would be considered a strong energy, right? So um, one of the important things, we'll get into that, that goes back to the concept of you will tread on the heads of serpents. That's an offensive thing. You treading on the heads of serpents. So a lot of times, unfortunately, when we look at because of the way we've been taught, we're always the victim, right? Even the way you're taught in school, we're going to start your history from the 1600s, right? And not to say that all melanin dominant people over the world were victims in the 1600s. That's not true at all. That's the furthest thing from the truth in all reality. In fact, what you have in the 1600s, you have some people who could have took hold of this prophecy. Some people in the 1600s said, you know what? These melanin dominant people enslaved us at one point, and now we're going to get back at them and we're going to enslave them. You gotta read the history. When you had those ancient, beautiful Moorish concubines, like they were all different colors. So anyway, Jeremiah 48:10. Cursed be he that doeth the work of Yahuwah deceitfully, and cursed be he that keepeth back his sword from blood. Now we talking my language. So what is that talking about? Right? That's talking about people who play church. That's what that's talking about. That's talking about people who won't do the work. There's so much time that you can waste with BS people who just not interested in doing the work, man. They'll tag along, because they want to get a piece of your walk. They want to get a piece of your gift, a piece of your anointing. They want to be near you. Every time they're around you, they find that they make money, or they're getting new job opportunities, or lovers, and this and that. They're feeding off of your power, feeding off of your ashe, and they're claiming what you're claiming. But when it comes time to take the head of a devil, they're ain't doing that. Right? So that's what Jeremiah 48:10 is saying when he says, cursed be he. Cursed. This is a curse. Be he that doeth the work of the Most High deceitfully. Doing the work of the Most High deceitfully, what it's saying is that you ain't really doing it. You're saying you're doing it, but you're not really doing it. And cursed be he that keepeth back his sword from blood. Meaning when it's time to fight, and remember your sword is also synonymous with your tongue. So when it's time to speak up, when it's time to fight, you're mute. Your sword doesn't even get unsheathed. You're not ready to go to battle. You're not interested in going to battle because the reality is your heart isn't really here. You're not slave to the purpose of this kingdom or building, right? You're just here. So now let's get into something that's important too. And I want to add, this is all important, obviously, but I want to add on to that. If you won't fight for me, I'm not going to fight for you. That's just how that goes. Right. I had a relative that happened to, man. It was almost like instant karma. This was many years ago. We were young boys, like young boys. I don't even know if I was a teenager yet. And I had got into a situation where, let's just say it was a law enforcement kind of situation, right? I was about 11, 12 years old, right? And I'm sitting in the back of the squad car, getting ready to be taken to the precinct. And one of my relatives comes by and sees me, and he does this, like laughing, like, right? I'm like, yo, like, this is not funny. You know what I'm saying? I'm terrified. I'm a little boy, and So I went through that whole part, whatever, right? And maybe a month or two later, this same relative of mine got into a fight. Well, really tried to bully one of my friend's younger, I think it's his cousin or his nephew. I think it's his nephew, right? Basically, they got into a little situation, and the nephew pulls out a lock, like a master lock, bangs him over the head with it. Bow! Cuts the whole top of his head open. Right. So when it got back to me, the nephew was kind of nervous, like thinking, all right, now I got to fight the family. And I was like, it's regular street stuff. It is what it is, right? Because what's in my mind is, you gonna fight for me? Well, I'm not doing that, man. And you were bullying him, so you kind of had that coming anyway, right? Can't bully everybody, you won't do it now. You learned your lesson. So you think about that for a second when you playing in the presence of the Most High. When the Most High is putting you in a situation where you're supposed to perform, and you're given all the tools, you're given all the teachings, and you say, yeah, I'm gonna do this, yeah, I'm gonna do it, yeah, I got it, I'm gonna do it, and you don't do anything. Or when the time comes to speak up, or the time comes to slay the demons that are inside of you, because that's also unsheathing your sword, is the renouncement. When you're about to do something that you know you're not supposed to do, and you verbally, no, I'm not doing that. No. In fact, doing that is wrong. I'm not, no. And you don't do that. What makes you think then later the Most High is going to stick up for you and fight for you? It doesn't work that way, right? So that's always something important to remember, because a lot of times we're given these images, happy-go-lucky Jesus, as some of y'all grew up with. No matter how you act, no matter what you want to do, God got my back. No, nah, that's just not true. You have fantasized about this entity too much. And if we're made in the image and the likeness of the Most High, then you have to stop. You have to kill the fantasies. That means the Most High has a way of being, right? Very simple thing that you could just imagine. I know this is hard for a lot of people, but let's say the Most High is just an ancient alien. Let's just try it for a second, because that kind of makes the most sense anyway. It's just an ancient alien. And that alien may say, oh, you disrespect me? The hell with you. Go over here, die with everybody. I tried to give you something good. I tried to hook you up with this alien technology and show you this, and show you how to master your body and push your mind to the limits of its performance, and show you what an actual consciousness and spirit was. Showed you how to cast out microbes that might try to control you, because a demon isn't anything other than nanotech. So I'm trying to show you how to prepare yourself for the future. And you disrespect me? All right, go over there with the rest of them. Go over there with the rest of them. Have you not ever done that? And I'm not saying that we are creating the Most High in our image, but what I'm saying is that we are created in the Most High's image. So some of the things that you may fathom are not beyond, when you read the stories. Like, yeah, you turned your back. It even tells you in Isaiah 54, what I read earlier. Like, I turned my back from you for a little while, right? Isaiah 54:7, for a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. So he's even saying, he said in Isaiah 54:8, in a little wrath, I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith Yahuwah, thy Redeemer. So you don't want to mess with me? I don't want to mess with you. I'll go over here to another planet. I'll go over here to another galaxy. I'll come back later. I'll see you later. And then what happened while I was away, right? Because I'm trying to show you I'm your Redeemer. I am your Yahuwah. But you didn't believe me, so I stepped away. Let you do it on your, all right, you made yourself. Do it on your own. You made the heavens and earth. All right, go ahead. You got this. Step away for a little while. And what happens? Everything goes into chaos. Then I whisper, look, hey, check this out. If you come back, I got you. If you want to keep going the way you're going, go on with the rest of them. As a parent, a lot of us is a time when we have to say the same thing. You know, you have to let the Most High guide you. So when we read that, or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his good, except he first bind the strong man and then he will spoil his house? A house is like a stronghold. Some of us have strongholds of dysfunction inside of us, man. No matter what we go through, from system to system, structure to structure, we bring the same anger. We bring the same nastiness. We bring the same insecurities. We bring the same ego issues. We bring the same childhood issues that we allow to dictate our adulthood. We bring all of these different things with us each time because we have never bound that strong man, which is that demonic spirit, and gone into the house and like, I got to ruin this house. Because if I ruin the house, then the demon has nowhere to hide from under the sun. I don't want the demon to have a place to hide. I always want to be able to call it out, whether it's, I shouldn't be smoking. I shouldn't be drinking. I shouldn't be having sex with random women. I shouldn't be having sex with random men. When you allow the stronghold to persist, you'll forget you have that issue until a trigger comes. And then it comes out the house and, break, oh, wow, it's nice outside. Where we at? Oh, okay, Miami. Let's do it. You see? So there's that concept that's present. Now, there's something that I said to you earlier, beyond what we're even saying in terms of like being neutral. It's a battle. Battlefield, if you stay in the middle and you stay neutral, you're going to get hit by something. Got to pick a side. It's just the way it is, right? So either I'm going to side with the Most High, or I'm going to side with the lower energy. Now, Isaiah 54, again, giving you that energy of the 9, also connects you with the Hebraic letter Vav. And we spoke about that last night. Vav. Vav is the hook. Now, what does the hook do? Of course, it stakes down the tent, so the tent or the house or the tabernacle can stay properly grounded. But the hook also connects the higher to the lower, right? So it hooks heaven and stakes heaven down to earth, right? So it keeps that righteousness first and foremost, if you will. Now, this is one that you've probably heard before that's important. But a lot of times, especially those of us who are more culturally aware, we tend to associate this particular piece with the government, right? And it's not really about the government. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So remember when I spoke about earlier, when you have a devil that seeks to cause confusion amongst the righteous people, as Brand Nubians so eloquently put it. These people will cause a whole lot of confusion. And then once everybody's all in a tizzy, they'll sit back and kind of just, you can see the light, like, got them. And because in their mind, that proves their superiority. And it's no different than what the adversary does. The adversary takes everything that's beautiful and flips it. That's why sometimes, and I check it, we could be on these channels having positive conversations about men and women getting together, because men and women are supposed to get together. Then what does the devil get in the chat? Well, how can I get with a man if this is going on, if that's going on, if that's going on? You don't really mean that, but you're the blessings are what you hate. You're irritated by the blessings of, wow, people are getting ready to get together, but you love the curses. So let me bring the curse, the Deuteronomy curses back up again. Because these people have broken the law, they won't be able to be fruitful. They won't be able to build anything. So when they start coming out of the curse, let me remind them of the curse, because that's the part I love. Whereas I hate the blessing of people getting together. See, that's the devil. But what does it say? Let's try it again. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. This is why I was able to tell that relative, I hear Satan when you talk. My beef is not with you. I don't have, come on, we're relatives. I don't have a problem with you. However, there is wickedness in your high place. What is your high place? Your thoughts, your head. So that is what I'm wrestling against. Because even within myself, let's try it again. See, I'm giving you different scenarios. Within myself, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Can I apply that to myself? What is the darkness of my own world? The darkness of my own world is my body. It's my melanin. It's my body. I fell into darkness. What fell into darkness? The light. Where was the light? The light was in my pineal, right? So when my pineal collapsed into the darkness, it's now being ruled by the spirits of my body. What are the spirits of my body? Animal spirits, demonic spirits. So I'm wrestling. What is it? What is the wrestling? I'm tugging and I'm having a back and forth with my most high, with my most low. But wickedness in high places. So you mean to tell me that there's wickedness even in my thoughts, in my most high? Yeah, there is. And I'm constantly wrestling against that. You see? I don't find pleasure in having the wickedness rule me, but a demon does. A devil does. So when you have someone who is always stirring up confusion, which is a Jezebel spirit. And I want you to be clear on something, that a Jezebel is not just a female. The Jezebel spirit, a man can have a Jezebel spirit. I see plenty of males with Jezebel spirits all the time. Go online and start talking about manhood and patriarchy. Watch who's the first person to say something. Most time it's not a female. Most time it's not a female. But isn't that the way the Most High intended it? Yeah, that's the way the Most High intended it. So what does Satan have to do? Flip it upside down. And then there's those that find the light when they can flip it upside down, because flipping it upside down to them proves their power. If there's a room full of righteous people and they're doing righteous things, and I can jump in the middle of that room and get them to do something else, then I must be more powerful than they are. But those who curse you, you will eventually condemn. Those who judge you will condemn. Those who curse you will be clothed in their curses. See, people don't realize, by jumping in and doing things like that and always trying to prove that you're more clever and you're wiser than those who, because righteous people seem dumb to people. Even when we're, like I said, more culturally aware, why should I love my enemy? That's stupid. That's what got us in slavery. That's not what got you in slavery, dog. That's not how you wound up in slavery. Read a little further. Read a little further. You wound up enslaved because you were already enslaved. Your physical enslavement was just a physical manifestation of what was already happening. You were enslaved to the glory of this world. That's what happened. And then, being enslaved to the glory of this world, the Most High said, yo, stop, come out of her. Constantly, come out of her, come out of her. You are my people. Be ye separate, be ye separate. Nah, nah, nah. All right, well, listen, this is just the law of dynamics. You know, as above, so below. So as a man thinketh, so he is, right? So if you keep thinking that the most beautiful and the most amazing experience you can have is on the planet, and you become enslaved to that idea, then you are going to be enslaved to the planet. You are going to be tied and enslaved down to it. You see? So that is nothing but an unfurling of a mindset. So when we're wrestling against principalities in high places, we're wrestling against a mindset. When you have someone who's being a devil within a space, don't get mad at the person. I'll give you a little hint. Don't get mad at all. Because when you get mad, they transfer the devil over into you. Because remember, the devils work through your body. So most of the time we have trouble with what? How did we first grow up? Eating. Something we want to put in our mouth. Because why? It was pleasant to the eye. It looked good. Oh, and then we tasted it. It was good to eat. It's the somatic, soma, Greek, body. It's the body that the devils enter into, not the thoughts. We wrestle up with the thoughts, but even the thoughts are the human thoughts are where the wrestling happens. The divine thoughts, there's no wrestling. You can't really touch those. You see? So don't get upset with people, man, because that's a part of the trap. You got to realize that it's just like an Alita battle angel. You remember, at the end, when it was the sacrifice, and he said, he was speaking, Nova was speaking to him, and he was like, yo, I was getting tired of him anyway. Like, you didn't stop me. You just killed one of my pawns. You just killed one of my soldiers. So the issue was not really him. The issue was more so who was working through him. And you have to be able to discern to be able to see the difference. You got to know when it's a person's ego talking from when it's a person's devil talking, when they've been taken over. And just like we're so sometimes obsessed with videos about reptilians. Oh man, I saw Mark Zuckerberg, I saw George Bush, and I saw Barack, and they shifted for a second. You saw their eyes shift, they're reptiles. Why can't you see it when your grandmother does it? Why can't you see it when your son does it? Why can't you see it when your husband does it? Or when your best friend does it? When those devils are, each one is taking a turn. Oh, let me switch out, let me go, switch out. And if you sit and you look at them long, you'll see this one pops in, that one pops out, this one pops in. They'll have their sober moments where they're them again, and then the devil will see an opportunity to jump in. Boom, here we go. Contagious diseases are classified under the classification of opportunistic diseases. An opportunistic disease is one that you receive when, let's say, your immune system is compromised, and then you get sick. That's called an opportunistic disease, right? Because it took the opportunity, like, oh, a weakened immune system, let me get in there, right? So a lot of times our friends and our family will be used because those are the ones that can elicit a physical reaction. Physical reaction will be an emotional reaction, energy and motion. And through that emotion, they ride the wave back and they come back in. If any of you have ever fought, you've ever boxed, you know that's a technique we use a lot, where we ride risk, right? Someone will throw a punch, let's say they throw a jab, right? And you ride the jab back. You may block the jab, you block at the wrist often, right? So let's say somebody throws a punch, and if I'm punching like this, my first reaction is, let's say I've always want to come back here. Let's say this is my spot. I want to protect my face. So I punch, come back, punch, come back, punch, come back, right? And let's say I'm like, man, I want to hit Chief in the face, but every time he punches, he comes back to the same spot. So what I'll do is I'll block and I'll ride his wrist ever so slightly. Ever so slight, because I don't want him to feel it. I don't want to do this and push it. I just want to ride it. And what happens when I ride it back, I'm going to push it off angle, just ever so slight. Push it off angle. Boom. So now instead of coming back here, he comes back here. And as soon as he comes back, I follow up with a counter punch, punch him in the face, because I rode his energy back. He extended, and that was my opening. A well-trained martial artist. I remember there's a brother I used to fight with, and there was a brother one time who was with us. He was like, yo, y'all are so boring to watch. As I got better, because when you get good, you don't throw first. I'm not throwing first. You throw. And we'd be sitting there just instead. You throw. Because whoever throws first, that's the one who's going to get it. My cousin used to say that. He was like, yo, just give me one arm. Give me one arm. I'm going to mangle you up. Once that arm comes away from you, as long as you're here, you're safe. Send it out here. Watch what's going to happen. Because once it's extended from you, I'm working it. Whether I'm doing a keto, I'm grabbing you, I'm breaking the arm, or whatever I'm doing, right? So the same thing we used to fight, we'd just be sitting there like this. Look at each other. Nobody wants to throw, because we know what's going to happen once you throw. So sometimes you just sacrifice, like, all right, boom, throw, like, all right, now we're going, come on, So it's the same way when you're fighting a demon. Don't throw, because the demon will ride your current back. Even though you think you're just emitting, you're just sending out, the demon knows how to ride your current back in a way so that you don't end up in the same place. So the example I gave earlier, they'll offend you 40 different ways. And then you'll say something about maybe one or two of things that they said. They're doing that on purpose. They're moving the goalpost. Oh, well, that thing. Meanwhile, there's 38 things sitting out here. And what happens is that because you're now distracted with that one or two over there, they'll even let you get a resolution in that. right? So let's say we use the example I said before. A person says your house stinks or something like that. You'll have your little this discussion about my house stinking. That was wrong. You shouldn't have said that. Let's say, yeah, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't have said that. You're right. I won't say that anymore. So now you're pulling that hand back. Oh, you said I'm right. We came to a resolution, but now they got 38 other insults riding back with you. Boom. So you walk away from the conversation like, I'm still pissed off. I'm still offended. Not totally clear as to why, but I feel like that wasn't really resolved. And then you'll look at the person who said what they said, and you'll always notice that they'll do it again. There was no resolution. They'll do it again. Why? Because they won. They got a little smirk, even like, all right, cool. I won't talk about your house anymore. All right. See you sensitive about it. Okay, okay. They're still the same exact person. There's been no repentance. Repentance is changing direction, changing the mind. There's been no changing of the mind because their goal from the beginning was to attack you and hit you. And they accomplished what they set out to do. They hit you. And sometimes they'll use your ego to ride back on. Your ego, like, all right, cool. At least you hear what I'm saying. Don't say that anymore. I don't like it. They'll use your ego as a passageway in. And then once they get in now, because you're open from emotion, that's why you responded to begin with. Instead of somebody say, "Oh, your house thing." Yeah, sometimes it does. Oh, you gonna wear those shoes? I love these shoes. Keep going. You look fat in that shirt. You should see me out of this shirt. I look really fat. Keep going. You see, I'm not giving you anything to ride on. Or, let them clothe themselves in their own curses. Don't say anything. There's a sacred science I've told you guys before. Let people feast on silence sometimes. They'll go find somebody else to ride in on, because essentially what they're doing is they're trying to find a place to root. A demon, a person who's infested with demons, a person who's a devil, they don't water themselves. They can't. They're a parasite. They have to constantly be finding new places to root. Why do you think when you go into like churches and stuff like that, you meet some of the worst people? You would think you would meet some of the best people. You could go into a bar and meet great people, right? Just helpful people, help you go outside. My car battery help you start your car, everything. Go to church, you meet some of the worst people you could imagine, because you got a bunch of devils in there who need to feed. They got to eat. They got to feed, and they can't generate their own food. They can't generate their own chi. So what they do is they get a cloak. I'm a Christian. They get a cross on their neck. They start doing that stuff. I'll just say that. They get a cross, and every time you see them, blessed and highly favored. Yep, but get them home. Go look at that bar they got in the basement. Blessed and highly favored. What's all this liquor you drinking? You watching the same shows as everybody else, and you want to do all the same physical things as everybody else. Oh, okay, that was your cover. That was your cloak. That's what that was. No one has pulled that cloak back yet. So you're taking fabrics from me to cover yourself so that people will treat you like me. Oh, there's such a deep thing with that one that y'all are not ready for. There's such a deep thing that has so much to do with our dear Barack Obama. maybe at some other point you'll make the connection. But cover me. I'm dirty. I'm demonic. I'm wicked. Let me get the covering of something that appears to be righteous, so I'm not treated as a virus inside of the body, and I'm not attacked by the antibodies and expelled. If you didn't leave some people covered up, they would be expelled right off of this planet. Literally, they would be kicked right off of the planet. There's some people already trying to leave before that happens. Oh, there's enough air we recently read an article about all the air on the moon. There's enough oxygen on the moon to support a colony. Why are you on the moon? For what? To live under a dome? All of this land here that is, hasn't really even been explored that you could utilize. You want to go to the moon? You talking about colonies on Mars? What the heck is getting ready to happen here that you don't want to be here for? Oh man, there's so much with that. All right, so that's mainly what I wanted to share with you. I just wanted to speak about deliverance, right? And sometimes the things that we need to be delivered from, are just not the things that we think about. They're just not the things that we think are necessarily um, a problem. But sometimes we're too lazy to, like I said, dig up the roots. Don't want to get our hands dirty, or we're too cheap. We don't want to pay the cost that's associated. It's like buying cheap shoes. If you buy cheap shoes, they're gonna hurt your feet all the time. If you buy good shoes, they're gonna hurt your feet once. Then after that, they're gonna be super comfortable. So sometimes we don't want to go through that initial burn, or that initial work that's required in order to receive something right, because we're playing deceitful. We're doing the Most High's work in a deceitful way, um, and as a result, we're putting people in danger, right? Because if I'm playing with this, I'm never going to give you the real tools. That's why when you hear people from my new speak, it's hard sometimes to deal with what we talk about, right? But because we're more in tune with with our contextual environment. you know if if there was a wild bear where you were living who was attacking your livestock and possibly your family, I wouldn't hand you a 22 pistol. Be like, oh, go handle your business. A bear be eating them bullets like they're freaking pecans, you know. So you have to be equipped. When people care and they're really doing the work of the Most High, they're going to send you out with the proper tools. If not, it could become a very dangerous experience for you. So when you hear me say things about like, yeah, we're a patriarchal organization and men have to be strong, and women have to learn their power, and it's not the power of the goddess and all that stuff y'all keep making up, that is just total bull crap. It's total bull crap. And I've been breaking it down for you for years now. There's no such thing as a goddess, because God is not male or female. So why are you limiting yourself like that? You made up a word. You don't. It doesn't make sense. God is it. You always hear me refer to a God as it, but there's many gods at the same time. So maybe your God, if your God has one sex, that's whack. That means your God has been split apart. That's not cool. Um, So I just want to cover a couple of things before I go that you can keep in mind. Or just some things I kind of wrote down. Um, One of the things keep in mind is that never let a phony rob you of your ability to love other people. That's demonic oppression. So I'm giving you the different things that a lot of us need to be delivered from. Now, of course, we know the standards. The standards are sugar, bad food, anger, pornography, social media, things like that. A lot of us, we know a lot of those, and I've spoken about addiction before and brought those things up. But I want to get into some other ways that we can combat it. Right? A lot of times, some of us have been in relationships that were so traumatic for us that we've been robbed, or we've allowed ourselves to be robbed of our ability to love. And most of the times, that comes from a person who's a phony. They're a charlatan, if you will. You know, um, Situations may happen, or we may place a certain amount of trust that we shouldn't place in them, and as a result, now we can't trust anymore. So that's one thing. Um, don't waddle in guilt. Learn your lesson. Don't fret over your mistakes. Mistakes are meant to be corrected. When you put yourself in a position where, um, I've heard so many women, and it's a female thing, have told me over the years, like, I don't like to be wrong. I don't like to be wrong. What are you, like an infant? You're gonna be wrong. That's what life is. Sometimes you're gonna be right. Sometimes you're gonna be wrong. What's the problem? Sound like sound like Seinfeld. What's the problem? But what's the problem? You can't be wrong. So if you can't be wrong, you can't grow. You have imagined in your mind, whatever age you are, that you have reached perfection. So you're insane. That's a statement of an insane person. Nothing can get in, right? So don't fret over your mistakes like that. Don't waddle in your mistakes like that. Learn your lesson, move on. No biggie. That was probably one of the biggest phrases my children used to hear coming up, especially like when we used to, homeschooling, when we go over lessons and they would mess things up. And I would always say, no biggie. They would always give me, I would say, no biggie, no biggie. I'd always say, like, oh yeah, you messed it up. You'll do better tomorrow. No biggie, right? But always just instilling in them that this is not the whole of life. Okay, so you messed up your multiplication, so you messed up your fraction, so your grammar was messed up in your book report. No biggie, because you're going to do better tomorrow. That's what's inside of you. Don't even worry about it. Just learn what you did and move on. So that's a way that we become oppressed. It becomes a spiritual sort of oppression, when we're unable to move on in that sense. One of the important things is discernment, learning how to discern the things that we hear or things that we see, you know, um, or even the things that we read, and making sure that those things align up with our cultural scriptures, right? Whatever your culture is that you've committed yourself to, do those things line up with it? If it doesn't, then there's nothing wrong with being suspicious about it, right? So even people who come in a certain way, there's someone who I known for a long time, right? And he years ago left. He's an expat, and he left the U.S. back in the days. And the way he did it, I thought, I was always very impressed by it, because many of you know I go back and forth. I'm not in the country very often, but I go back and forth, right? He was like, I'm out and will never touch that soil again, and he never did. And I was like, whoa, that's some serious commitment, man. I was always very impressed by him, and until I went to his home, because we used to talk online a lot, back on the message boards, like back then and stuff like that. I went to his house and kicked it with him and his wife, his children, and his wife was so obnoxious, and the way she spoke to him, I was like, ugh, yuck, what is this? And I was like, you're not what I didn't say it to him, but it's like, nah, you're not what I thought you were. Whatever reasons you are here, it's not for the reasons I thought. This is not my culture. You know, not only is she talking to you crazy, but she's doing it in front of company. She doesn't even want you to, maybe she's doing it because I am here, to make it clear, like, just before you even think about it, I got this, I'm running this. So that didn't line up with my culture. And as a result, I began to become suspicious of him and what he was about, which was good because I got to see other things going forward. So one of the important things to not, to make sure that things are not like sneaking in is make sure that whatever a person is saying or doing or whatever, that it's lining up with your culture. That's important. Um, Facing reality and not living a lie is extremely important in terms of like deliverance. A lot of times we don't want to face what really is or what life really is, or sometimes we see things from the rip and we like, or we get an image right away. And of course, sometimes dreams online again. At least it's not the bad ones, the nasty ones. Yes, remove it. Remove it. So yeah, a lot of times we see things and we like, it's like almost in relationships when we choose to ignore red flags and then it comes back to bite us, and then we always say, man, I knew it and I saw this, I saw that, but didn't want to get out of here, Satin. And I saw this and I saw that, but I just didn't react. I didn't, do a certain thing, because sometimes, a lot of times, we're looking for a certain level of further proof because we have a Western way of discerning things. Like, that's another way that you kill a devil in the moment, right? A lot of times you'll be dealing with someone will be doing something devilish, and it's like you can't quite put your finger on it, and they know you can't quite put your finger on it because of the way they're behaving. And they'll just have this look like, I know you can't prove it. Don't try to prove it. Get lost. Why? That's not fair because I feel you're foul. I know you're foul, but I haven't been able to prove it. But check it out. I'm not a Western person. I'm an Eastern man. So the way I discern things is not the way to discern things in these horrible court systems. I know you're foul, and I'm going to deal with it from there. Done. I'm going to take it on face value. You see? So sometimes we have to learn to do that. And that's a very powerful tool. That's something I used to do with my children all the time. Yeah, I don't want to say too much, but let's just say they would get in trouble. Like they start talking, you know, and I would just like shut it down, right? I ain't gonna say it. But they were like, what did it? Because if you talk too much, I'm gonna start believing you. They know they used to hear me say it all the time. If you talk too much, I'm gonna start believing you. So nah, we ain't doing that. You know what I mean? So learning to see things on face value. I know you lying. I know you're lying. It'll come out later, but I'm gonna deal with it now, and then I'll get my proof later. I know it sounds crazy, right? But of course it sounds crazy because we've been taught to do the opposite, and that's the technology, that's the politics. You see, politics, the root of politics is polite. So to be polite is I'm doing something evil to you, but I'm doing it in a polite way. It's my ability to speak to you a certain way. It's the color of my tie, the color of my shirt, my haircut, this, that, these different things that it's enchantment. I enchant you in a certain way and then do the most horrible things to you. Polite politics. Whereas your spirit is telling you, get away, back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. Respond to that, react using that. That's one of the ways that you can deliver yourself from situations. A lot of us have situations like that with our family. We're just waiting for the next thing to happen. Oh man, my such and such always takes advantage of me. This one always borrows money, doesn't pay it back. This one, that. And they create so much confusion that by the time you try to unpack all the confusion, you're like, man, I don't know what to do, right? Because you've allowed so much confusion to persist with that particular situation. So we have to learn going forward, don't even let that stuff come in. When you see it, like how you have those old grandmothers and grandfathers, the old ones, they don't make them like that anymore. But, sometimes you'd be with your friends and a friend would come to the house and they'd be like, that one there. They ain't even do anything, but they know. They know that one. They read in spirits, right? So we abandon our birthright when we forget how spiritual we are. When we forget our power of discernment, when we forget how in tune we are. See, the curse of Adam, when he was now going to have to sweat to bring forth food, it was two things. It wasn't actually Adam's curse. He didn't get cursed. But the first problem was that now you got to eat from the ground, whereas before he was eating from the trees. He was eating fruit. There was no vegetables on the planet at that time because it was just that mist that came up from the ground, but the ground didn't have to be farmed. It was all in the trees. So now you got to eat off the ground. Number one, the animals be doing all kind of stuff. That's where you're going to eat your cabbage and your this and that. But the other thing is that you're going to be out of tune with the seasons. So you ain't even going to know how to grow the food properly because you're so out of sync with it. You're so out of tune with it that you ain't even going to know what to do. You see? So that was another part of that curse. That's why we got so much plant-based food now, because there's certain people who are still living Adam's curse. They're living Adam's curse. They can't even grow food. You see, they can't. So they got grown in a laboratory because they're so out of tune with the planet. You see, so that's another one. You got to kind of learn to look at the hidden parts of people and not at the outward. Look at their hidden parts and practice that more and more. Like it has to be a practice. Because a lot of times, we go through certain situations where here's one, right? A lot of times you go to buy things because I used to buy a lot of cars, like flip cars a lot. I was really into that, and it was like a fun thing. It was like a fun activity. Like, all right, I'm gonna go whether looking in the back of the paper or Craigslist, oh, somebody's selling this, the whole thing of trying out a new car, haggling the price down, maybe flipping it, driving it for a summer, flipping it, whatever. That was something I just did for enjoyment, right? Um, and then I've had a lot of businesses that I've been in where I've had to buy goods and maybe resell them, right? One of the first things that people will tell you when they're getting you is they'll tell you when you're haggling them down, they'll be like, listen, I'm not making any money on this, but you know what? It's not about the money. It's about the principle. It's about the relationship. They say something like that. It's always about the money. Stop. It's about the money. If it wasn't about the money, you wouldn't let me haggle you down. If it wasn't about the money, you'd be like, nah, the price is what it is. But hey, tell me about yourself. The fact that we're having a conversation about money, it's about the money. Right? So the thing about that is that's something that's an opportunity where you learn to look at the heart of things as opposed to just looking at the face. Learn to look at there's always a hidden purpose in all statements and all things. Even when I'm speaking here and I'm talking to you, that's one of the curses of this social media age, if you will. People really believe that everything that I am goes on YouTube. They really believe that. I've had people tell me before, Chief, they met me in person and they're like, oh, you different than how you are in your videos. No, I'm professional. That's what that is. I'm a professional. Why would I like it's just a dumb thought. But that's just the world we live in where like even people will see a celebrity on the television or whatever and call them by their first name. Like you know them. You don't know them personally. Why are you calling them by their first name? So it's the same thing here. You have to learn to look at the heart of things. Now, yeah, I'm not revealing all of who I am. Like I've never done a video of me walking through my house or anything like that, as you've probably noticed. When I speak about my children, you don't know how many children I have. You don't know boys, girls, and you don't know what their names are. Anything like that. You might get some social media stuff if you find one of them, but their real names are not on there anyway. So there's obviously I respect and I appreciate my privacy, and it's not for the world. I'm not an open book for the world to read, right? Doesn't mean I'm being dishonest, because you can still probe my heart. You can still probe, and you still will find like, okay, he's just being private. He's not necessarily being deceptive, right? But he's got a screen behind him. He just doesn't want you all up in his space. That's all. It ain't about that, right? So there's a difference, when you're able to read through the heart of something. There might be someone who's not telling you everything, but also maybe everything ain't for you to know. But you can still look and see like, okay, what's behind it, right? That's another way that you can avoid kind of getting trapped up into a demonic kind of place. And one of the things that you need to do when you are trapped into a demonic sort of space, you know, one of the big ones, and I think, again, I didn't grow up in a Christian church, but I've spent time around Christians. A lot of times they have this thing where, and many of us take it on, where is that the Most High is going to do the work for us, right? What's that? If I something and let the Lord fight my battles, victory, victory will be mine. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know the rest, but I know there's a part that goes, if I hold my, there it is. If I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battles, victory, victory shall be mine. There we go. All right. And there's more to it. That's the only part I remember. I told you I ain't grew up in church, so I don't have all the I don't have church memories like everybody. But I'm very thankful for the time as a musician that I was able to be hired to play for a lot of different groups. But that's another way that you get demonically oppressed, right? Thinking that you don't have to do anything, right? That's how you end up in a demonic trick bag, thinking that you don't have to do anything. We can't necessarily look to the Most High to do our job, but we have to read and study the Word in order to understand what it is that we're supposed to do. And then we do it, right? There's too many people who are just lazy. They're lazy. They get into environments like this and think that being in the environment is it. I'm good now. I'm on the ship. I can tell you right now, there are certain people who are connected to me through spiritual work and whatnot, right? And if there was a ark, if I had my family in an ark and we were loading up, I'd probably shoot you or kick you in the face and close the door on you. Because some of you are just around. You have perfect attendance. You got perfect attendance individuals who, but they're doing the Most High's work deceitfully. And they won't pull out their sword to slay one devil. I know that, right? So, you got to do your own work. You can't ride off the merit of my walk. Chief doing this and Chief doing a whole lot of stuff. Chief been doing all that stuff. What are you doing? Can we sit at a table and talk about what we're doing and support each other? Or will it just be you listening to me? Right? Which would mean I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to talk to people who ain't doing nothing. And you definitely can't come on the ark. I'm going to drown you. You tell my sons, man, keep holding them on until there ain't no more bubbles coming up. Right? So, this is another like Christian misconception, right? Related to that. They think that Yahushua came to the planet to save them. Not really. Yahushua came to the planet to defeat the lower energies. See, so from what was above came down to what was below to conquer it in order to rise to above to it again. So now when we invoke the mental capacity of what came down, we can also tread on the heads of serpents. When it talks about Yahushua came and held captivity captive, when he was murdered and then went into the bowels of Sheol for 3 days, he went down there and took the keys. Now imagine going up into a prison, right? Imagine going up into Pelican Bay. You go into Pelican Bay and then you take the keys for everything, all the codes to open all the cells and everything. Then you walk out of there, right? So now, of course, anybody who is in that space, if you like, listen, just I'm gonna send you a kite. I'll send you a letter, and I'll show you how I did it. Okay, cool. Sounds like a plan, So the important thing is to understand is that energy of the Most High, or what we call Yahushua, came down to hold Satan or thought captive. That was the point. Not to die for my sins and save you from what? What's the problem? Save from what? No, it came down to show you how to defeat demons. This is just why it's one of the miracles you saw. I mean, you can't even call it a miracle, really. It's like, this is what I do. Go into the swine over there, right? So there's an army of demons. There's an army of satanic thought. There's an army of fallen angels. And Yahushua comes to completely defeat that army. That's why Yahushua came, to fight. Defeat the army, and then now, okay, cool. Now you show me how to defeat my demons. That's why you don't need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist when you have demonic issues. You just need to go to another one who's walking in the path, another one who's holding the faith. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need anything special, to be honest with you, for deliverance. If you have somebody who's walking away and who's keeping those laws, statutes, and commandments, that's the person who you can go to, and y'all can work together to be delivered from the things that you need to be delivered from. Don't need anything out beside that. And I get those, Chief, I need to talk to you because I'm dealing. You don't need to talk to me. I mean, just go to your brothers and sisters around you. If they're walking in the right way, or if you're walking in the right way, you could do it yourself. You don't need me for that. What am I going to do? What am I going to do when the Most High, all I could really do, any priest, could do is trim your leaves. That's all we could do. I'll be totally honest with you. That's all we could do. Because to uproot your dysfunction and your demons from you, you have to do that. You have to be like Solomon who controls the jinn. I can't do it for you, but I can only trim the leaves back so you have enough time to think clearly to fix the situation. But ultimately, when we talk about he bruised the head of Satan, bruised the thought of Satan, that's what that scripture is talking about. Bruise the head of Satan. When your head is bruised, it's been changed, it's been softened like a piece of bruised fruit. So changing your thoughts and the path of satanic thought. You see, well, how can I do that? Well, I got to walk in the ways of Yahushua, do like Yahushua did. Fortunately, I got some stuff I could read to learn it, but no one can do it for you. Deliverance, you have to want it for yourself. And if you don't want it, so be it. So be it. But just understand that we are in an Isaiah 54 time now. That's where we are now. It's a lot of prosperity. Soon money's not even going to matter. Think about what's happening with the explosion of, that's why they talk about the great resignation. People are like, I ain't going back to work because I really don't need the money. We're about to be in Star Trek times. I was watching something the other day where there was a whole meal 3D printed. Think about that. Is that not the replicator from Star Trek? Right? You punch in some numbers, I want to eat a steak. Because think about it, if you're eating a plant-based steak and it's all some form of processed texture, why couldn't that be printed in a machine? Right? It's not like it's growing into any kind of organic form. So the science of Star Trek, they never argued about money in Star Trek because it wasn't about money. It was about what? Boldly going where no man has gone before. So it was all about self-actualization. That's Isaiah 54. That's where we're going into now. Whereas now many of us need to prepare. We need to prepare. We need to widen the tents. Those of us say, man, I want a family. I've always wanted a family. You know, and there's another thing I want to share with you before I go with that, man. And it's to you women. You're going to be like, where's this? Don't worry. Don't worry. It's going to make sense, but it's not going to feel correlated. Doesn't matter. A gem is a gem. If I give you a bunch of diamonds and I give you a ruby, you're going to be like, what am I going to do with the ruby? Take the damn ruby. Anyway, so a lot of you are in a place where, you know, and this is sometimes the emergence of the bossy woman, where you want something to control. You want to lead something. Maybe you never had children. Maybe you did. They're grown now. They're doing their own thing, right? So then you start turning that in on your mate. And if he's a dummy, he'll let you start bossing him around because he's a dummy. She the boss, say things like that. I mean, Denzel Washington said something like that. How do I long marriage? I just do what she tell me to. That junk ain't funny. Come on, Denzel. You from Mount Vernon. You know better. You know, but it's nothing cool about that. Nothing cool about that, right? That's how you destroy kingdoms. The destruction of kingdoms was always preceded by a feminist movement. Always. You know, whenever you saw goddess worship come to the forefront, those civilizations always fell. Every time, right? So there's an order to doing things. Some of you women should be taking care of babies. And I know what you're going to say. I ain't got no eggs left. And eggs all misshapen. I'm too old. No, you're not. You may be too old to birth babies, but you're not too old to take care of them. Do you know how much stress and strain that would take off of you? See, let me give you a little science. For us men, we love our children. Don't let these other people tell you any different. That's warfare when they tell you that we don't love our children. We love our children more than we love you, right? Which is cool. Because you look at us, you look at our size, you look at our height, you look at our aggression, and you determine if this is a man who can keep my eggs safe, keep these babies safe, right? That's what you determine, you know. But what happens is after we have the children that we want to have with you, we have a greater esteem and maybe even love for you, but we're not as interested in being around you anymore. But you're more highly esteemed, right? We want to go on and do other things because a lot of times we recognize, and a wise woman does too. But when you're in a sick society that uses this against you, a woman will look at a man and say, I want to have his baby. She'll have a baby with the man and then get rid of the man. See, that's that Willie Lynchism. Set the wild horse back free after they mate. They mate, but keep the mare in the yard with you. And you send the wild one back out until you need it again. That ain't nothing but Willie Lynchism. They took down my video on it, so I can't even reference you to the video, right? But the point I'm saying is that we mate, we have these babies, we raise them. I'm gonna go out and go make some more babies with some other women. You won't be so obsessed and worried about it if you're governing those children, because that becomes your world. That becomes your queendom that you can dominate and you can, you have a great purpose in. My great purpose is in entrepreneurial pursuits and expanding my franchises. That's my thing. While at the same time doing everything you're doing too with those children and with you, because I still gotta govern you. But I can govern you and those children with this hand while this hand is over in another continent. That's what I can do. You can't do that. We're built different, right? So what happens when the children are grown? Well, in your community, you find someone who has babies and you become the sponsor to that baby. You keep it going, right? So let's say you see a sister, it doesn't even have to have a lot. She might have two children, might have one, might have three, that family. And let's say this particular child is a daughter. Okay, the daughter name is, Rebecca, whatever. You say, okay, all my children are grown, this, that, that. Now we call that like godmother and stuff, but that's a really light thing. When I'm in Nigeria, Ghana, we have this concept of sponsor. And that means like this, it's usually sponsored by a woman, right? That woman is like your mother. And she may be no relationship whatsoever, but she takes care of you like your mother. You'll see the baby ties to that woman's back. When it's time for school, she's paying the school fees. She's helping to send you to college. Whatever you need, she's like your mother. What does that allow for? That allows for a woman to continually cultivate her queen skills, infinitum, right? Because when that baby grows, there's going to be grandbabies. It's going to be, but you always take a child or two and say, I'm going to help with these. But the thing is, which is so important, because we do it in a twisted way in America, we negate the father. A lot of times the grandmothers come in to get rid of the father. Well, I'll take him. I'll do this. Fall back. The father has to approve, because ultimately it's the father's plan. So you have to sit with that father. Oh, you want them raised like this. You want that. You want that. You want that. And then you have to reflect that back into the child. You see? But that's what a wife is supposed to do anyway. It ain't about what you want to do. How many times have people gotten consultations from me and said, women, I want to leave something for my children. I want to set up a business for my children. That's not what you do. Where's the father? The father determines the legacy for those children. The father is the one who creates the inheritance for those children. That's the father who determines. You don't do that part, but you want to be the man. You see? So that's something that women who feel like, or not feel, I mean, you know your body. If you're beyond having children, the ability to have children, whatever, go find some children and help raise them. You don't necessarily have to join that family as a man's wife or anything like that. But you pick a child and you sponsor, but it can't be a sometimey thing. Like, you got to be an active member of that child's life. Active member of that child's life. See, that's when we start talking about true tribal culture and living. That's what it is. True tribal living. When that child is your child through and through. That child knows it has a mother, but it knows that this is my sponsor. This is my mother is there. My mother has given birth, but this is the woman who is going to help sustain me through life. That is her responsibility. And it's not a fun thing for her, which, you could bring them by. We going to the beach. No, this is a serious thing that she has to take on. I have an auntie like that on a continent. And she is my sponsor, like hard body. She's my sponsor. When there's a situation, she's right there. Like, nah, Baba didn't do that. Baba, like I'm her baby. You don't talk about my baby like that. you know, in fact, there's a young man who she sponsored. I'm gonna tell you so crazy. When it was time for him to go to school and stuff, she's the one who came to me and was like, "Yeah, I want you to help him school." And then she eventually became my auntie. And something happened. He did something super grimy, and she stopped talking to him. And they're the same people. I'm not even biologically of that tribe. But she's like, "No, you're not gonna disrespect my son like that. Uh-uh." I mean, any of you thinking like, "Oh, that's because you send the money." I don't send money, stuff like that. It's not a money thing like that. Um, it's an energetic thing. It's energy. She saw me and was like, "That's my son. That's my son." You see? So that's community and that's tribe. Now you may say, how is that related to deliverance and stuff? It's not related to deliverance or anything at all. Just something I felt like needed to be said today. Because there's a lot of you women who you're moving around with no purpose in life. And you feel like, well, man, I didn't have my children. It's too late, or I already had them all. They came out messed up, you know. But if you're connected to other families, we could always use help. I'm telling you, I'm a man who holds my family down well. Like I'm good. I hold it down well. But you could always use help. But Sister K would say, your daughter so and so, your son so and so. I would like to kind of really be their godparent and just, I'm using the term godparent just, I'm talking to it. I would like to really kind of cover them for how long? For the rest of their life or for the rest of my life. I mean, we're part of the same community. Sure, that's great. I mean, more hands helping with the work. I mean, it could only be better. It's like having a board of directors, and your board of directors, everybody's competent in different things. So I just wanted to put that out, man. I felt like some of you women need to hear that because just like some men, sometimes we don't know how to transition from one place to another. And after like I've had plenty of clients 50, 55 years old talking about, I want to see if I can have a baby again. I'm not going to say anything because I have worked with a sister before, 53, and me and another brother, Rootsman, that I work with, we did a lot of rituals, a lot of work, but she had a healthy son. And in fact, there's another sister I work with that was about before. It's crazy how we time everything by, you know, the the incident or the event recently, but it was Pan. She was 50s. I'm trying to remember her exact age. Older than 50. I think she was like 56, 55, something like that. And her husband is in his 60s and had a baby. In fact, they had twins without the fertilization and stuff like that. So it is possible sometimes, but most of the time it ain't. before you're like, oh well, I got time. Man, we talking about miracle babies, so don't it's not the norm. But the point I'm saying is that yeah, in those situations, if you just kind of feeling like, man, yeah, I want something to do, whatever, or not just want something to do. I encourage all of you women to, and I'm not just talking about find some single mother who needs help. The help that a single mother needs is to either get back with the father of her children, or to give those children to the father of the children, or get married. Don't support sickness. Don't support indecency. Straight up. And I know a lot of people may not want to hear that or whatever, but that's not our way. That's an embarrassing reality of our curse. That's a part of our curse. Unwed mothers. That's a curse. So you don't come and say, I'm gonna get his sister somebody. No, I'm not giving you nothing. I'll give you this brother's phone number. He's looking for a wife. He already has a wife though. Yeah, he's polygynous. Don't want to do it? Yeah. Okay. Don't want to live our culture? Okay. You see the numbers are dropping now. But the point I'm saying is that, just for you women who just feeling like, you know, yeah, like it's over. It's not over. It's never over, man. It's never over. Keep yourself healthy. And children are not as egotistical as us, in a sense like I had relatives, I had aunties when I was a child that were not my aunties. And I didn't know until I was like a teenager. I didn't care even when I found out. Like this was just my mother's really close friend and was there since I was probably born, I guess, or whatever, or at least as far back as I can remember. And Auntie so and so, that's that. You know, as adults, sometimes our ego kicks in. It's like, well, I don't remember you. I don't have a history of you. I don't know where was you in such and such a. We're egotistical. Children are not like that. If your energy is good, whatever you say it is, it is. It's my second mother. All right, hey, mommy too. Hey, grandpa number four. It's just like that. So I just say that to say for you sisters who are kind of feeling that, that this is a season. This is an Isaiah season. Isaiah 54 season. Make room. Make room. Make room in your tent for more children, right? Even if there's no children around you. Brothers, make room in your tent for more children, more wives. If that is the way you're living, if you're living, if you can handle it. If you can't, then do what you do. But the point I'm saying is that the barren woman should be singing out loud. That was the beginning of Isaiah 54. If you're barren, sing out loud. Because now it's time that your fruit is going to come forth. And your fruit may be coming forth through another sister's womb, but there's no reason that can't be your family. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you sisters. Encouragement and instruction. It's not over for you. It's not over for you. We got to move like a tribe in order to reclaim this prophecy and these promises. All right. So that's it. All right. Willfully, you receive something that you can make good use of, especially as it pertains to deliverance and recognizing when you do have demons that are oppressing you and how they get into your system and how they're possibly keeping you from capitalizing on what has been promised to you. All right. So I'm Chief Yuya, and this is Anu Life Global Ministries. For those of you who want to be a part of our ministry, go to anulifeglobal.org, ANULIFEGLOBAL.org. Let me do that again. As I got to count, I got to do like a killer to beat whenever I say out the name of the website. ANULIFEGLOBAL.org. AnuLifeGlobal.org. I got to tap this stuff. I'm a very tactile person. All right. But anyway, man, so feel free, sign up, apply. You may get in, you may not get in, whatever, no biggie. All right. So, but with that, everyone, please enjoy the rest of your Sabbath and rest up and enjoy your family and your loved ones. And all of you in the chat who was saying thank you. I didn't really look at the chat too much, but you're welcome. I'm sure it's probably along that lines. All right, everyone, be safe and be well. Peace.